Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Current Issues, brought to you live from Lafayette, Louisiana. And I'm your host, Fredrick Toben. Last week, I visited Washington and I attended the Barnes Review and AFP conference on the First Amendment. And I saw 250 up to 350 people discussing matters of vital importance. They were exercising their right of free expression. Some of us still take this right to be self-evident. Well, it's not. There are dangerous forces all over the world trying to take away this basic human right. After all, if you take away my right to, or the freedom to think and to speak, then you take away my humanity and you commit a crime against humanity. Truth is my defense. The matters that were discussed at Washington were intensive. We challenged many vital issues, for example, the Holocaust, a topic that's full of taboos because it serves as Israel's #1 propaganda weapon against the Palestinians. And many books have been written and published about the Holocaust. Most of them define the Holocaust as being, #1, the systematic extermination of the Jews in Germany during the Second World War. #2, 6 million were exterminated. And #3, this happened in homicidal gas chambers. I am, as you now realize, of course...
Hey, what's going on here? What's going on here?
Wait a minute.
What's going on?
Why are you interrupting me? I'm doing this thing now.
What are you doing?
Oh, come on now, Hesham. We organized that I would be doing this.
I'm 3 minutes late, and they put somebody else to do the show.
I've been given this slot. Now, don't you start on me. This is my business now.
Now, come on.
Come on.
Come on. What is this? I'm 3 minutes late.
You're late. You're late.
What are you doing?
You've got to be on time. You've got to be on time. No.
I'm going to be on time.
Now, listen here. This is...
not to be.
Sooner or later, we must all be on time.
Well, I am on time. You just started a little bit earlier.
I don't think so.
I'm late 3 minutes, and then you let somebody else go instead of me? What is that?
Oh, this is just impossible.
I quit.
He's better looking than you.
Well, he's better looking than me. You can have him. Where do you come from anyhow?
What's going on? I've been here for a long time.
I've been doing the show for 4 years, and then all of a sudden, you just come in here and make yourself at home.
What am I to do, viewers?
I have no idea.
May I suggest we share this program now?
I guess so. I mean, what can I do? You're already here, so go ahead. I can't turn it. I mean, you're already sitting,
ladies and gentlemen, in that case, let me introduce you to Dr. Hesham Tillawi, who for the last 4 years has been presenting this show in such a way that he's put Lafayette on the world map. And very few people would have known where Lafayette in Louisiana is had it not been for Hesham Tillawi. And for that, I think he deserves a good round of applause.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Current Issues. Tonight I have one of my good friends with me all the way from Australia, Dr. Fredrick Toben. Me and Dr. Toben, as a matter of fact, we met for the first time in Washington, D.C. over the weekend. And we have met a lot of people during the American Free Press Conference in Washington, D.C. Over 300 people actually showed up. And we had a good time. We really had a good time. There was a lot of good Americans there. How did you like the conference, Fredrick?
I thought it was excellent. Excellent in this respect. As I said before, you rudely interrupted me. I had a few more notes about this thing, so perhaps we can talk about
these things. Go ahead. I mean, be my guest. You're already here. can do anything about it. What was like the highlight of the conference that you think?
I thought the highlight was the end, when you had Rabbi David Weiss bringing the Neturei Karta, or the Torah True Jew point of view, across. I remember when I was in Tehran in March that the Neturei Karta people were in Tehran, I was in Mashhad, and I said, I'm not so sure about the Neturei Karta people, because although, if I may just have that book there, the big one, I did come across Rabbi Weiss at the last Barnes Review conference, and I liked what he did and what he said, that he was a Torah true Jew, but I didn't realize that he believes in the Holocaust. And then we had Mark Glenn responding to Rabbi Weiss's exposition, and Mark Glenn was really, what was he? He apologized beforehand, before he took Rabbi Weiss literally apart. He was not vicious, but put it this way, I think Mark Glenn is, from his point of view, a much convinced Christian. And so Rabbi Weiss didn't fare well. By the way, you can get all these DVDs of the conference. I think it's worthwhile to get them, because I have never, in all my years of traveling around the world and attending conferences, seen such presentation as Rabbi Weiss and Mark Glenn did. In some respects, it proved that America is still the land of the free, where the First Amendment is still operating, is still working as it should be.
Now, let me just tell our viewers what we're going to talk about tonight. Tonight we will be talking about 9/11, which is, it's only about 4 days away. And we will see, this will be the 5th anniversary of 9/11. Are we closer to know what happened or what's going on on that September 11th day 5 years ago? I don't know, but apparently we still have Bin Laden pops up every once in a while whenever George Bush needs him to.
Can I perhaps interrupt?
Sure.
And about 9/11, let me raise an issue that is important, because in 4 days' time we are witnessing the terrible tragedies 5-year period, its 5th birthday, so to speak. A question to all the viewers: what happened 4 days ago, 4 days before 9/11? Think of this. In 2001, in Durban, South Africa, from the 28th of August to the 7th of September, the United Nations held a conference called on racism and xenophobia. And at the end of that conference, Israel stood condemned as an apartheid, racist, Zionist, terrorist entity. Can you imagine that? As a terrorist entity. Then 4 days later, 9/11 happened, and guess who then stood condemned? Then, after 9/11, the Muslim world was declared to be a terrorist world. Islam was considered to be a terrorist religion. Can you imagine? 4 days before 9/11, Israel was condemned by most of the world, by most of the United Nations members present in Durban. 9/11 is pulled off. and then the Islamic world is the terrorist, and that's been going on ever since. Something is not right, something does not add up. There's something going on. This connection, Hesham, is a very important one. Very few people make that connection, and I think the viewers should look into this. By the way, if you Google on this aspect of the conference, look at our website, if I may plug Adelaide Institute. As you know, www.Adelaide Institute, one word, lowercase, .org. We've got a whole section on this, which I Googled off today.
You think you can give me a second here so I can start talking too?
I thought this was my show.
Well, I mean,
you're my guest.
We said we will share.
You're my guest.
Well, I'm your guest. Can I talk?
Oh, please, I'm sorry if I've been impolite to you.
William Blum, he wrote a book. It's an outstanding book called Rogue State. On the back of that book, now on the 5th anniversary of 9/11, ladies and gentlemen, just listen to this. He said, if I were the president, I could stop terrorist attacks against the United States in few days, permanently. I would first apologize very publicly and very sincerely to all the widows and the orphans, the impoverished and the tortured, and all the many millions of other victims of American imperialism. I would then announce that America's global interventions, including the awful bombings, have come to an end. And I would inform Israel that it is no longer the 51st state of the Union, but oddly enough, a foreign country. I would then reduce the military budget by at least 90% and use the savings to pay reparations to the victims and repair the damage from the many American bombings and invasions. There would be more than enough money. Do you know that 1 year of the United States military budget is equal to, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, you will find it very interesting. 1 year of American military budget is equal to more than $20,000 per hour for every hour since Jesus Christ was born. That's what I do on my first 3 days in the White House. On the 4th day, I'll be assassinated. It's a good book. William Blum, Rogue State. Fredrick, how do people look at America? Like in Australia, I'll tell you what. I'm asked that we'll take a break, so we will take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am Fredrick Toben's guest tonight. He is hosting the show. Fredrick, tell me, does anyone know what happened on 9/11? What do they think in Australia happened on 9/11? What's the tune down there?
Most Australians are looking at the internet for real information, because the mainstream media isn't giving us the information that we want. It's very much like in America. You have to remember that we are a pale copy of America. All the trends that you have here exaggeratedly presented, we have them in pale copies in Australia. So we could be the whatever state of America. But I would say that it's too imprecise to say most people are not informed. Through the internet, especially the younger generation is very skeptical about any conspiracy theory that comes about. And I treat the 9/11 matter as a conspiracy theory sold by the government. And I reject it outright. Because if you know a little bit about these things, a little bit about science and technology, then you realize some things just don't add up. And most Australians are, well, we have a skeptical bent. We have perhaps a larrikin element. Remember Steve Irwin, the poor fellow who died just recently.
Yes.
He is an exaggerated version of the average Australian, but we do have that certain
So you guys
laid-backness.
you don't go chasing alligators.
I wouldn't think so. Would you?
We're going to cover 9/11 in depth in the second hour. In the first hour, I want to talk to Dr. Toben about his expertise, which is basically history of World War II. But let's go ahead and catch Bob on line 1 before we go any further. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I would just like to ask, Sean, America, who should its first obligation be to? Its people or its neighbors?
It's people.
Well, that was just a question I was wanting to know because I was listening to another channel. I may call you back later and ask you another.
Okay, well, what did the other channel say? The neighbors?
Well, I was listening to a Republican, Adam, something like that.
Yeah.
And he said it was about immigration. His obligation, he didn't mention the people. His obligations were more or less towards the immigrant.
Well, let me ask you this. Is your obligation to feed your children and pay your rent, or pay your neighbor's rent and feed his children, then whatever left over is for your children? Is that how it works?
No, that's not how it works.
Exactly. If you have anything left over, then you might take it to the neighbors.
Okay, well, I just caught a little bit of the program. I wasn't quite sure what the doctor was saying. So, I just wanted to add my 2 cents, that's all.
Okay. Half the times I don't even know what he's talking about. Dr. Toben, this is a subject that normally people, they don't want to touch, they don't want to talk about. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people saying there, why do you keep bringing this up? We're talking about the Holocaust. Now, I don't want anyone calling me here and saying if it happened or if it did not happen. I don't care what your thoughts about this. I don't care where you stand on it. But I want to know one thing. Because the Holocaust, as a Palestinian, believe it or not, even though my people were far away from the Holocaust, we were not involved in World War II, we were not part of the war, but yet, Palestine was given to the Jews more or less because of sympathy as to what happened to them during World War II. Supposedly, the Germans killed 6 million of them. I'm not here to talk about numbers. I don't care if it's 1 or 10 million. That's not my issue. My issue is why this subject has been going on for over 60 years now, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Indeed. And Hesham, you're in good company because the Iranian president, Dr. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, has made that same connection to the Palestinians, with the Jews, and with the Germans. And he's saying, look, what's going on? What is going on? Why is it that the Palestinians have been uprooted and been replaced by this European colonial entity? This is what Israel is, a colonial European entity in the Middle East. And there must be a freedom to ask the questions, why is this going on? And then automatically you bump against this thing called the Holocaust. But you're not allowed to ask questions because so-called Holocaust survivors are feeling hurt, because what you're doing by even raising the matter is questioning their integrity, because they have a story to tell. The Holocaust narrative is a terrible story of suffering.
How many people died during World War II?
Well, millions.
I mean, what are we talking about? 40 millions, 50 millions?
And more.
So if we accept the fact that 6 million Jews died, if we do that, that is like a small portion of the total number of those who died.
Yes.
Why we forgot about everybody else, but this Holocaust thing, it only means the Jews who died?
This is why the Holocaust has to be looked at, because it's distorting world history. The Holocaust concept is making a mockery of the complexity of what war is all about. For example, the Second World War cannot be understood if we look at the results of the Second World War. If we just look at the Second World War and say, the Holocaust defined this period, we're missing out. It's a simplistic way of looking at things. I have students in Australia, if you ask them, what was the Second World War all about? And they say, well, there was a war. Then they'll say, you'll say, well, can you say anything else about it? And they'll say, yeah, Hitler. Oh yes, what did Hitler do? He killed the Jews. Well, why did he kill the Jews? He hated them so much, so he killed them. Now, that does not answer or give us an explanation of what complex forces were behind this. And if you then go back to the First World War, or even the up to the Balfour Declaration, then you realize, hey, wait a minute, the First World War, the Second World War was only a reason for one of the many reasons. It's multifaceted, and one was the establishment of the Jewish state.
Let's talk in specifics here. The Jews were rounded up and put in concentration camps. Right or wrong?
Not only Jews. Not only Jews. Many people were put in concentration camps.
But Jews were rounded up because they were Jews.
Oh yes, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And put in concentration camps.
Yes.
So, and also gypsies were rounded up just because they were gypsies.
Yes.
Now, what other people?
But not only. Again,
I'm looking here for people who were rounded up because of who they were.
No.
Because of their identity.
Not
of their religion.
For example, if you looked at the gypsies, if you realized that they were living in squalor, that they were rootless, that they were a danger to...
but they've been there for thousands of years, so why round them up? When did they start rounding up people? Like in 42?
No, that was when the Germans started consolidating their political unit. They were considered also to be a danger or a threat. I can draw parallels with what's happening today in some ways with the Patriots Act. There are people identified as possible enemy aliens, and they are then being rounded up.
What are you talking about, Muslims?
This is what I'm getting at. This is the danger. This is what's happening. But the parallels aren't quite striking, because the philosophy driving today's labeling of the Muslim world a terrorist world is a misnomer, because it's there to deflect from what the Jews want to do in Israel. And their dream is this Eretz Israel, Greater Israel. The whole problem, what we're talking about, is multifaceted. There is not just one explanation.
Let me go back to the Jews and being rounded up because they were Jews. Apparently, Hitler or the German government thought they were a threat.
But not only, because you had the Havara Agreement. For example, the Zionists were actually working together with the National Socialists to bring the Jews to Palestine, because at the back of all this is already the establishment of the State of Israel. The Zionists wanted a physical state.
When did they start rounding up the Jews? Do you know what year?
I'm not quite familiar with that.
Okay.
I don't know the details.
But the whole thing ended in 1944?
Well, 44 was the end, yes.
Okay.
On the unconditional surrender.
Okay. Now, you did do some research, and you did go to Germany and actually visited some of these concentration camps. What concentration camps did you visit?
I went to Auschwitz.
Okay. Now, tell me, in Auschwitz, how big is this building? How many people can you put in this building at one time?
We mean the whole thing was a holding camp. It was a transition camp. The idea was to transport, for example, we have all heard of Anne Frank. Anne Frank was actually at Auschwitz. This is the diary of Anne Frank fame. She was actually at Auschwitz, and then she was transported to Bergen-Belsen, where she died of typhoid fever, I think.
How old was she?
For 15, 16, something like that. But all this, again, we start with a little bit of truth, and then we fabricate. The total breakdown of the German system, just look at what the Israelis did in Lebanon, that total breakdown. If you didn't have Hezbollah and others still maintaining a basic infrastructure, or look at Iraq, the same thing, where the illnesses or where the epidemics come through. This is what happens. You've got to then have to have a situation where you can save the social fabric from totally disintegrating.
So, if we go back to what happened during World War II, because it's a question, it's a question that needs to be answered, and I'll tell you why. Because Palestine was gone because of the Holocaust. Okay?
Yes.
The world sympathized with the Jews for taking Palestine because of what happened during the Holocaust. But also there is something else that the Holocaust has done too, is it wiped out the history of Germany.
Indeed, indeed.
It went from these thousands of years of heritage and history, and you do know that Germany had given the world the best of scientists. This is the truth. This is history says that. But after World War II, then all this technology, the sciences, the philosophers, all this was wiped out. You don't hear anything about it. So Germany lost its whole history because of the Holocaust. Now, how can we find out exactly what happened during the Holocaust and how many people actually died during the Holocaust? Now, some people says, well, even if it's only one, that's fine. I just want to put this thing to rest. The world has to put this thing to rest, because there is a Holocaust that is going on right now and no one's paying attention to it. Why are we paying so much attention to this Jewish Holocaust and we're forgetting about all other Holocausts? I gave you a lot of questions to answer. So what is the answer here? How can we get rid of this?
My response is, again, it's multifaceted, what you've spoken about. If you realize that the Germans still do not have a peace treaty, that Germany is still an occupied country 60 years after the event, then you realize that the prediction made by one Jew that Germany must perish, that Germany must die, this is coming to pass. The German mindset is a threat to Judaism, because it is, in this respect, a mindset that is more embracing. And there we have this conflict where, for example, you have German Jews or Jewish Germans who are running around the world now with all good German names. They are still being venerated by the Germans because even, for example, the current revisionists in German jails like Germar Rudolph and Ernst Sundel, these people who have done a tremendous amount of work to regain or re-establish Germany's honor. These people are facing judges who cannot do otherwise. The German judiciary system is still, or is not a German system, it's an occupied forces. And the research, and thanks to the internet, the research, however, has been done by the Germans, by Germa Rudolph, for example, his final book, or one of his books, the Lectures on the Holocaust. We have, the revisionists, we can say, we have won the argument on paper, but we haven't got the political clout to push it through. But who has come, and this is again, I come back to the president of Iran, he has ripped the issue wide open.
Why the world doesn't want to know of what happened? How many do you think died? Let me ask you that question.
Yeah.
How many do you think died? Like what that you can really show on?
What, Jews?
Yeah.
There is a theory or a figure of about 300,000. For example, if we look at Auschwitz, we've had the figures up to 1988, up to the second Zundel trial, it was 4 million on a plaque at Auschwitz. They had plaques in 20 languages, 4 million. After 1988, and when Gorbachev returned the death books of Auschwitz, and I'm saying this because people should know that the information is there, but it's just being locked up. We can't get at it. After that, the figures were reduced to 1 to 1.5 million at Auschwitz. Now, in 1996, Jan van Pelt and Deborah Dwork, in a book, Auschwitz from 1270 to the present, they actually said that Kremmer 1, the alleged gas chamber that every tourist at Auschwitz was told was a gas chamber, they admitted that it was a reconstruction after the war, and that the real gas chamber was at Kremmer 2 in Auschwitz. Now, in 2000...
Was there a gas chamber?
This is the point. In 2002, Fridtjof Meyer says the gassings didn't occur at Auschwitz 2, but in 2 farmhouses. Now, this is they're all over the place, and so if whatever you want to have in your argument, you'll find it. For example, if you've believed in the Holocaust for 20, 30, 40 years, are you going to admit to yourself that you've believed in the story when in fact it's a lie? You're not going to readily say, hey, wait a minute, I've been conned. This is the point. The media has pushed this through. Everyone knows Schindler's List. When Schindler's List came to Australia, it was the first film on TV shown without advertisements. Can you imagine? Why? Because it's done in such a dramatic way. If it was broken up by advertisements, the tension would not be there.
You went to Germany to... What did you want to investigate when you went? And you have a little clip that you're going to show us.
Yes. In 1997, I went to Germany to speak with prosecutors and judges, and I did that. And in 1999, I went again, and I met the same prosecutor, and he arrested me. So I spent 7 months in a jail there, and he apparently, he said that this was because of what we've got on our website. If you can just have a look at the...
Let me know when you're ready so they
yes.
can...
Now here, this is the... What?
Okay, go ahead.
This is to the right. This is the railway track at Auschwitz-Birkenau. This is the myth where it says to the right the people were, they came off the train and then they went to work. And to the left it was immediate gassing. Of course, this is not a fact. That was one of the posters the Germans had, the Holocaust never happened. Now here I'm entering the Kremmer 2 where there is the alleged hole is supposed to be a gas induction hole. And here I'm inside the Kremmer 2. The story was that these pillars, these concrete pillars, were hollow, when in fact you can see they're quite solid. So the story keeps on changing. Now here we'll have the the clip. Let me just start that.
The legend claims that 1.5 million people, mostly Jews, were murdered in the gas chambers in Auschwitz-Birkenau. Survivors say that around 2,000 people at a time were lured into the gas chambers to take a shower. When they were all in there, the SS went onto the roof and tipped Cyclone B poison pellets into 4 large roof vents, and the pellets fell down through the hollow concrete columns into the room below. The people died within minutes. If this is true, said the French revisionist Professor Fredrick, evidence of these roof vents must still be there, even though the rooms were blown up, possibly by the Russians a few weeks after the war. A few years ago, Dr. Fredrick Toben from Adelaide Institute, Australia, travelled to Birkenau looking for the 4 roof vents. Oh, he found holes okay, but after carefully measuring them, he concluded they were caused when the buildings were blown up and could not possibly have been roof vents. Despite much searching, he could not find any hollow columns either. While crawling over and underneath the collapsed roof, Dr. Toben found no evidence of any shower fittings, nor could he discover any evidence of gas extraction units. If the building had been full of poisonous gas, huge extraction units would have been necessary to get the gas out of the underground chambers again. Despite a long search, Dr. Toben felt he must confirm what Professor Fredrick had said. No holes, no Holocaust. If these holes never existed, then the so-called eyewitnesses were telling us lies. If you believe it impossible for so many people to all lie about the same thing, then you must believe that only a few hundred years ago Europe was full of witches. What about all the people now who are being abducted by flying saucers? Do you believe in those too? Put this in the back of your mind. No holes, no Holocaust.
Now, this one here.
Neo-Nazis from spreading their message. Well, jail time has been assaulted Australia's most prominent Holocaust denier, who's about to travel to Iran at the invitation of that country's leaders, who've recently restarted their country's atomic reports. This Dr. Fredrick Toben shows off the macabre piece of what he calls evidence that no Jews were gassed in World War II. A scale model of one of the gas chambers at the notorious Nazi death camp of Auschwitz.
This was then the gas chamber, and gas was poured through these 4 holes. I was at Auschwitz and I didn't find these 4 holes.
He'll be taking the model with him on what he describes as an academic tour of Iran, where he'll be speaking at universities, recently accused of being recruiting grounds for suicide bombers. Jailed in 1999 in Germany for denying the Holocaust and placed under federal court gag orders here in Australia, it's likely his views,
The Holocaust, I call it a myth, a dogma,
will find sympathy in the theocratic state that's hosting his visit. As a hoax and renewed calls to wipe Israel off the map.
It's not a novel notion that the Iranian president expressed the racist, Zionist, apartheid state.
Okay, I understand that the sound was not that great, but the point is, I think studies need to be done, research needs to be done. It's just like, why not research 9/11? We had a commission that's supposedly to investigate 9/11. 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and they came out, now 2 of them, the chairman and the vice chairman, wrote a book and said that we had something in there that we should not have had, and there was other stuff that was supposed to be in there that it did not make it to the final report. Like the Israel factor did not make it to the final report. And in the second hour, we'll be speaking with Victor Thorne, And he has a lot to say about the Israel factor. But the point is, if there is nothing that people need to worry about, why not have an investigation? Well, I mean, we know we can investigate what happened in caves 10,000 years ago. Why can't we investigate what happened in Germany 60 years ago?
Well, there's one reason, and that is political, because, you see, the whole issue has been illuminated by Professor George Michael of the, where is he? He's from
Virginia.
Virginia University. He's written a book, The Enemy of My Enemy, and it's interesting because he says the subtitle, The Alarming Convergence of Militant Islam and the Extreme Right. Now here we have a constellation of what happened before the war. For example, very few people realize that the Muslims, for example, the Mufti of Jerusalem, that he was actually working with Hitler. And so you have this kind of language creeping today into the political arena, where they're saying extreme right-wing and extreme Islamists are getting together and they're threatening the world. Now, that, again, it's Second World War propaganda language. This is missing the point. The point is that Israel is a colonial entity and the Palestinians want their land back. Very, very simple.
Okay. Tell you what, let's go to the phones. I see probably Mark has been waiting there for a while. Go ahead, Mark. Hello? You're on? You want to talk?
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes.
All right, when you decide you can talk, go ahead and call us back. You see, my point, and I want to, reiterate that point. Why not have because, I mean, okay, some people might ask, okay, well, if you do an investigation and you only come up with 1 million Jews died, what difference does it make? See, my problem is not how many Jews died. There could be 10 million. If people want me to say 10 million Jews died, I'll say 10 million Jews died. Just prove it to me, show me, okay? But my problem with the Holocaust is what had happened since then until now, where the Jews are collecting monetary and politically on this that they should not have collected. See, that's my problem. I'm not discussing if Hitler killed or gassed. That's for history and that's for the researcher. That's not for me as a Palestinian to answer. As a Palestinian, I don't care how they died. I don't care how many they died. What I care about is what happened to my people because of this thing that is called Holocaust, that we had nothing to do with. Now, as Germans, they should stand up and say, we didn't kill all these people. And they should be demanding an inquiry into how many died and how much money Germany has paid already. How much money Poland has paid in reparation for the Jews of Poland. Do you understand what my dilemma is? I don't care how many died. I don't care who killed them. I care about that my country was given to the Jews because people were sympathetic to this Holocaust thing. That's my problem. Well, now, history's problem is to prove what happened regardless of what happened. That is your problem. You understand what I'm saying?
But this is what I'm doing and what happens. There are so many Germans who've done this kind of work and they're in jail. The whole legal system is there to block out this whole inquiry. For example, no university will touch this topic because in 1983, Dr. Wilhelm Steklich, who wrote the Auschwitz myth, he lost his doctorate. It was revoked from the University of Göttingen. That was the signal. The academics in Germany are gutless. They lack courage because they're frightened of losing something. The legal system is so finely attuned that you can that you have the people intimidated and fearful of asking questions. There are only very few brave people, and this is a degeneration. I see this as a degeneration.
Okay. Tell you what, we got Mark on the line. Go ahead, Mark. Mark.
Saladin.
Go ahead, Aladdin.
Well, it's my lucky week because I actually have been able to watch your program at my home.
Oh, wow. That's an accomplishment.
Listen, I just want to make a quick comment here.
Okay.
You hear a lot of people out there when it comes down to this business of discussing the Holocaust. They'll just say, just give it to them. Let them have it. Let them have whatever number they want. 6 million, let them have the gas chambers. Whatever they want, let them have it. But they don't understand that this is setting a very dangerous precedent, because when you understand the totalitarian nature of Zionism, you have to understand that it's not just the Holocaust that they don't want people questioning. They don't want people questioning anything. When you understand that these people have a global agenda that goes far beyond simply possessing a small strip of land on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea, then you understand that today it's going to be outlawing the discussion of the Holocaust. Tomorrow it's going to be outlawing any criticism of Israel.
Oh, they're going to outlaw 9/11.
On 9/11.
Conspiracy theories of 9/11, that's going to be outlawed very soon.
Yes, and finally what it all boils down to is that they do not want any discussion of this thing known as Judaism. You can already see the embryonic stages of this taking place in the fact that you have Abraham Foxman over at the ADL saying that the New Testament needs to be rewritten and have all of the anti-rabbinical or anti-Judaic texts taken out of it. And that Christianity is, in its essence, an anti-Semitic ideology. And so, what I would say to those people out there who cower before the rabbis is that you've got to understand that this business of outlawing Holocaust discussion is just the first step. It's like going on a date with a bad boyfriend. He's not going to be content with simply a kiss on the cheek, you see. And
Mark, let me just stop you here for a second. You know, to me as a Palestinian, I need to know the truth, because the Holocaust is connected to me, is connected to my past, is connected to my present, and is connected to my future. At the same time, we as Palestinians had nothing to do with it, but yet it was why the world sympathized with the Jews and given my land to the Jews because of supposedly what happened to them under Hitler. Now, if what they're saying happened to them, does that still make it? If it was true, I'm not here to discuss if the Holocaust was true or not. Definitely, everybody needs to know, and we do need to get to the truth. But my reason for this is I want to know why my country was given. Was it given to the Jews because of a lie? And even if it wasn't a lie, is that something that you should do? Give somebody else's land to somebody just because they were oppressed by somebody else? That's where I'm coming into this from. Now, you might be coming into it from a different way. Probably Dr. Toben might be coming to it from a different way. My own reasoning is I want to know the truth. I want to know what happened.
Not only that, if we were just to go by the sheer numbers, and let's just, like you said, let's assume that 6 million people were killed. What about the 60 million people, the Christians and the Muslims of the Soviet Union? What about the 60 million people who slaughtered in the camps under the hands of the Jewish Bolsheviks? Where are the reparations for them?
Mark, tell me, answer this question. We have been talking about this for a long time. Why people don't care about those 60 millions, but they do care about the supposedly 6 millions? Why?
Because the 6 million who died in the Holocaust were God's chosen people. That's why.
Now, I know and you know that you don't really mean that. So tell me why.
No, but this is what is drummed in. I mean, I hear it in the discussion.
God did not choose anyone. God is not in the business of choosing anyone. God chose only those who are with Him. He didn't care what color they wear. He doesn't care what names do they have. He doesn't care who they are. It's whoever. And Christians think that God chose them. Muslims think that God chose them. We cannot go around killing people because we are the chosen people. The Jews think they are the chosen ones. Everybody thinks they are the chosen ones. And I know for a fact that God is not in the business of choosing people.
Amen, brother.
So now tell me, why do you think, besides this chosen people thing, why do you think people care so much about the Holocaust?
Because it has replaced all other acts of savagery and barbarism throughout mankind's history. It has been held up as the highest example of man's inhumanity to man.
Done by Germans.
Done
Against the Jews.
By German Christians.
Exactly. Initially, this is why I say the Holocaust is pure hatred against Germans. And it's extended to Christians now. And so this ideology, the Holocaust ideology, is distorting world history to the benefit of one group only. And that is those who believe in the Holocaust.
And let me add one more thing, because I know you guys have got other people lined up.
Well, actually, very quick, because we're coming to the end of the show.
Let's remember that this business of the Holocaust and the 6 million, this isn't something new. In ancient Talmudic literature, the rabbis have taught their people that during the Roman siege of Jerusalem, that 16 billion, and that's billion with a B, 16 billion Jews perished in that Holocaust. So we have to remember that that this isn't something new. This is a trick that they have been plying for a long time, and thank you, both of you, and congratulations.
Thanks, Mark.
So the Holocaust is actually operating on many different levels, and this is its strength. For example, this book here, The Myth of the 6 Million, is a new reprint of a 1968 book. You can get it from the Barnes Review for $10. Look at our website. We've got an ad on it. We've got a telephone number. You can ring it. This is a very good introduction. It's very difficult when you start talking about the Holocaust, as you've noticed in this final hour, this hour. Where do you start? Where do you go to? It's operated at so many different levels, and this is why it must be threshed out, it must be talked about. And I know Palestinians and those who are helping Palestinians who are Holocaust believers, and I say be wary of those who believe in the Holocaust if they pretend that they're helping the Palestinians.
Okay. Now, as a public station, we are not allowed to to mention anything about selling books or anything, but if you do want any information on any of the material that you see here, by all means, drop us a line on email, and we will tell you how to get them. Well, I guess we really did not accomplish much in the first hour, because how can you change someone's religion? Because talking about the Holocaust is just like trying to convert somebody.
It has become a religion. It's an ersatz religion, and this is why we must have that freedom. And America still has the First Amendment.
Still
has, my word. And this is why I enjoyed being in America, because that First Amendment, I was assured and guaranteed, would never be removed by one of President Bush's friends, Tom Schiefer, who's now the ambassador to Japan. And he said it will never be got rid of. I hope he's right.
Well, all I can tell you is I hope in the second hour we will be speaking with Victor Thorne and Lisa Giuliani about Victor's latest book. I don't know if Lisa's going to be with him or not, but normally they're together. But I know at least Victor will be. Most likely she will be too. Well, we're going to talk about his latest book, 9/11 Evil. And we will see exactly what happened, what he thinks happened on 9/11, or if he has any new information about what happened, because he did write a couple of books about 9/11, but we will see what he has to say. Believe it or not, he better be ready to answer some questions for me, because I'm not going to accept just it was happened because it happened. I want him to prove to me of what he's talking about in this book, and if it is. We'll be back here, ladies and gentlemen, in 5 minutes, so we will see you then. Goodbye.
My name is Natalie LeBlanc, and I'm Community Relations Director for PASA, the Performing Arts Society of Acadiana. We have only one performance left in this